Okay, this is just going to be a little quick breakdown of how to do crystal grids. Of course, you know, this is just a basic design right here. So you have at the center is your focus crystal or your generator. I'm calling it a focus if the stones are around it are pointing in towards it, then it's going to be where all the energy is heading in towards, which will make it the focus. If the stones around it are facing out, such as these turquoise, so that tells you it's a generator. It's going to be the power plant and push its power from all the combined stones. It'll get contained in there and it will keep emanating outwards. The ones right around it are the way stones. Those will be the amplification for the primary or master crystal, which again could be focus or generator. So the ones right around it are way stones. They just serve as the funnel for the energy. The ones on the outer edge are going to be either desire or destination. If they're facing out, it's destination, because all the energy from the focus, from the generator, is going to end up out there at the destination. If they were facing in, then they're desire stones, because that's going to be your primary intentions is going to be held in the outer stone. So say with these green stones, you're intenting on sending healing towards somebody. Then you want to use the green stones for healing. So what you would do is face them in, since you want to bring in healing. So you can turn them all around and face them in. And remember, if the stones doesn't have a direct edge on them, just use your intuition. Now, being that we're facing them in, all other stones need to go facing in too. There are situations where you can do in and out, but again, like I was explaining on the other video, you have to have a direct acknowledgement within yourself and these crystals as to what you're doing. So in this case, what I'm facing in, these are now the desire stones. My intentions is healing. These quartz points right here are what you call the pathways. Even if they were not here, the assumed lines connecting all angles would still serve as pathways. Like, for example, from here to there, from this green stone to this turquoise, there's an assumed line. That's part of the pathways. You can think of that kind of like with a motherboard or a circuit board. You'll see how it has the main components, but then it'll have all the other little copper lines or gold wires that connect in everywhere else. Those are the pathways. They may not serve a direct purpose, but they do serve as conduits to push the energy along the path. So in this setup here, now that I have the stones facing in, these are desire. The desire stone, where the initial healing is intended from, is going to go here into the way stones, the one closest to the center. It's going to amplify that desire, and then it's going to feed it into here, which now this will become the focus, because all the energy is being focused into here. So that would be that setup. From here, you could add in anything else you wanted. If you wanted to place, shells around it or flowers, you don't have to, just because it's gemstones, you don't have to leave it as gemstones. Energy is in all things, so you can combine energy from all different sources. So let's just say I just add those right there. So we'll stop right there. All right, so you add those in there. The way you would want to do it, and bear with me, let me grab my little pendulum, kind of grew eggs. Where'd it go? There it goes. All right, so I'm gonna back out and take out these the shells. That's just for teaching purposes. The shells you can add on, the flowers you can add on. But let's say with this setup right here, the way you would connect it, you can use your pointer finger, you can use your just pure intentions of just, drawing the lines in your mind. You can use your pendulum, you can use a crystal wand, selenite wand, whatever you have. But what you could do is like hold your pendulum on it and place your intentions into your pendulum to connect all stones. And you see where your pendulum starts. So it started at this top one. And it's going to draw a process, and once it goes all the way around, you see it's connecting that first one. And just give it a second to do the connection, and it'll switch its directions on its own. And now it's drawing a line to that other one, your green stone on the side. And it should just keep going around and around until it gets all the way back up to that initial green stone that I have up there, that Gaia stone. Once it gets there, then it will draw the energy back into the focus stone, which is that smoky quartz in the middle, and from there it'll activate. But right now, see, this is like a long drawn out process when you're doing it by pendulum, but it is a better energetic flow in my experience. I mean, of course you could take your finger and just keep going here to here, here to here, here to here, and all that stuff. But when you're allowing the pendulum to actually manipulate the energy more efficiently, then the grid will kick off with a lot more energetic output. Let's just put it like that. You can feel it a lot more intensely. Like you see, the pendulum is starting to grab a lot more energy. It just has 2 more stones to go back over through. From there, sometimes if you are in the middle of connection and your pendulum is stuck on one of the energies, it can be a sign that that stone is not really complementary to what you're working towards. You will have to defer to your intuition. So if your pendulum gets stuck for a long time, you have options. Since it's still in the middle of the connection process, you can break the connection and replace the stone, or you could try and manipulate the energies in the stone via intention. You could use aura sprays. You could take that stone out and cleanse it, but you see the pendulum went ahead and took enough energy out of it to adjust it on its own. Or sometimes the pendulum understands what you're doing, so if that stone was facing the wrong way, it may stop there to let you know, hey, you need to check your work. It just depends on your attunement to your pendulum. Like, see, it went past that one, that zebra jasper, which when it's finished connecting, I'll probably go back and check and see just what the issue was. And you can ask your pendulum where the weak link in the grid is, and there's no disrespect to the stones, but you can ask where the weak link in the grid is, and sometimes it's just that stone still carries some tainted programming, or it's just not designed for what you're trying to do. So still working on the jade nephrite, and then it's going to go over to the moss agate. Moss agate is an excellent healer, so I really don't foresee any problems out of that one. When you notice that it start going counterclockwise right there, that's letting me know right there. From my perspective, my experience with my pendulum, it's telling me that stone won't work with this. So at that point, I would stop. And this jade nephrite right here has just been expelled from that setup. You can replace it. And no, you don't have to start over. If it makes you feel better to start over, then you start over. But I'm going to start from here from the center and continue the connection. So now I immediately went over here to this ruby fuchsite. And if it picks up the energy correctly, then it'll move on up to the other one. Now I switch this direction, and now it's grabbing the moss agate. So see, just that quick, when you're doing an energetic process of connecting gemstones, sometimes you'll have to bow down to what the stones have to say via your pendulum, which is basically accessing your subconscious. And sometimes, in some pendulum cases, they have their own personality, so it's more than your subconscious. So now it's back up to the Gaia stone, that green obsidian. And once it gets back over the smoky quartz, then you can just, it'll start activating the whole grid, and there it goes right there. And you can kind of either verbally say it or mentally say it, show me the width of the field, and it'll show you just how expanded your total grid is working in unison. You can see it, and the more you do it, the more you'll be able to feel it. And then I said I had that one problem with one stone, so I'm going to ask, and I'm going to make sure I clear my mind, because I don't want that stone to be the one it points to if it's not really an issue. So I'm asking my pendulum to show me if there's any stones that have a problem in this setup. And already, as I was asking the question, I mean, it went over there, and we already know it. And then if you want to take it out, you could, or you could ask, is it a problem leaving that stone in there? And it's telling me no. And you could double check it. Now, you don't want to keep asking your pendulum the same question, but you can kind of go around the same question just for good confirmation. Because remember, it's partly mental magic. So if you're not sure yourself, you can mess things up. So is this a functional grid? And there's my yes. So from there, you can leave it functioning right here. If you want to break it down, you can break it down by just, canceling the energy verbally or through hand motion, or just by grabbing a stone from out of it, and then you will disconnect it. If you move a stone from out of the grid and reconnect it, being that you are kind of like in the beginning phases, I wouldn't recommend direct assumption that putting it back in automatically reconnects the energy. You want to kind of get that rapport with the stones first. So now I'll defer to your experience. If your experience is you already know that it's reconnected, run with that. But if you're just not sure, go back through the connection process. And again, if you don't want to do the long route with the pendulum, you can take your finger and trace from the first stone, and you can pick anyone to be the first stone, and go from that stone to the center and back out. That stone to the one before it and back out. Then that stone all the way back in and back out, and then over. And you just keep tracing all the way back in. And all you want to do is just keep going from stone to stone until you get them all connected with your mind and get back up to the first stone. Once you get right there, what I do is I'll just normally trace a little whirlwind on top of it, simulating that I've stimulated and activated the energy. Now that smoky quartz in this sense is now a focus stone. All of the desires from out here and all of the amplification from right there in the ways, and then all of the energy that's being tied in from the pathways are now tied into that one stone. You could leave this as a setup, as a functional grid, or if you were, say, empowering an amulet, you could have left your center stone, the focus stone, there, and you could have fed energy into there and activated as a grid, and then after, say, 6 to 8 hours or however long you felt, then you could deactivate the grid, and the remaining energy is now in your center stone, master stone, focus stone, generator stone, or amulet, whatever one you want to call it at. So you can set up a grid, and I think this was what you was asking me the other day, Paul. Could you charge your elixirs? Yeah, so, and y'all already know how I feel about my stone, so I'm not gonna play that game. Let's just say I wanted to charge an oil. Same thing like I was saying, you don't have to have a gemstone as the focus. If my focus was to charge this oil, then I can grid around it the same fashion and then still play the same setup. So say you want to charge one of your elixirs, or even if you want to charge, like, say, some tarot cards or something, you can put them in the center and grid it and do the same process. But remember, the outside stones, if they're facing in, then they're desire, because you're sending energy in. If my desire was to send this energy from this goddess oil out, then I would face the outer stones outward, because they're now the destination. That's where I want the energy to go. So you would turn them around. Trying to think of a good example when it be in and out. It won't really work in this grid here, but there's an example of in and out of, say that you, and I showed it on the other class, say that you were working a protection and healing spell. If your protection is what you want, if your healing is what you want sent out, then you can send the energy out through the destination stones. That means they're facing outward. But if you want to hold protection around that centerpiece, then you could take the way stones and point them in. And again, at that point when you're doing that, you'll have to have masterful control over the energy. You can't just have one facing in and one facing out and not understanding the way that you're wheeling the direction of the flow. So in that sense here, if I'm using the smoky quartz as the generator to send out energy towards healing, but being that this is the piece that's doing the work, I want to keep it protected. So then I can place my waystones, which are the amplifiers, around it to try and send it in energy to keep it trapped into the smoky quartz. But as the energy is trapped in, it's now generating out safely towards these destination stones, which are the same format for what you're willing. So basically what I'm saying is, if you know that you want to do healing, and green stones are good for healing, you can send this stone here, which is a power piece. You can send the energy out and have it amplified out here into these destination stones. So as long as your destination stone is in alignment with what your intentions are, you're good. If I wanted to do a success spell, then I could use orange stones, carnelian. If I want to do correct protection, then I can use black stones, brown stones, silver stones, something like that. You could even get away with doing with clear quartz, but remember, clear quartz, even though it's purported to be master crystal, master healer, and all that stuff, it takes in just as well as it gives out. So be aware of receiving and amplification difficulties. So stick with something that is more in alignment with what you're trying to do, and don't just play that generic route. So again, right here is your master crystal, which if it's sending the energy out, it's the generator. If the energy is going in, it's the focus. No matter what, the ones around it are going to be amplifiers, but they're going to amplify in accordance to which way the other crystals are facing. And that's basically going to be determined by your destination. If the destination stone are facing out, then the way stones are amplifying the master crystal. If the way stones are facing in, then they're amplifying the stones on the outside, which would be desire stones, because you're pushing your desire inward. This one is pushing the power outward. And no matter whether you can see these outer crystals right here or intended visible lines, those are pathways. So you don't have to have them. It's just a matter of geometric effect. And you can place these on a mat, or you can just place them directly out here. And they do not always have to have a sacred geometric configuration. It just works better when they're that way, because there's a lot of energy already tied into those formations on their own. But if you wanted to just do it circular, you go for it. As long as you are at a point of tying in the energy together, you're good. And so that's the basic stuff. And over the next few days, we'll start doing some extensive ones where we'll add in, odd items like, flowers, herbs, whatever. But I just want to, catch y'all up on that. So if you got any questions, hit me up. Peace and wholeness.